what brought you back to Downton?
What brought me back?
Yeah.
Wow. Because I just love doing it. And it was so fantastic to know that we were going to do another film because, we've said goodbye to it and our characters quite a few times now. And it's always a great joy to know that there's still an appetite amongst the public, the fans, of course, particularly, for more. And who are we to say no? So I was thrilled that we were doing another one.
Absolutely, absolutely. And building off that, getting reacclimated to Downton, especially given, the time that passed and everything that's happened since. What did it feel like to, sort of rediscover Miss Hughes, especially, post-COVID and whatnot, right?
Yes. I mean, we've all had a terrible time, some more than others, obviously, through the pandemic. So this felt, we were still having restrictions during the filming of it. So, for example, in the hotel where we stayed near the castle, we had to be in our own wing, and we were tested all the time, and so we couldn't mix with anybody else who were staying in the hotel. And we had our own little section of garden where we could sit out. So it was a bit like being in a Downton holiday camp, really. And obviously to be reunited with the rest of the gang was just always a joy and a pleasure. So, and I think to work on something like this, some of us had worked through the COVID on other jobs, but this was like really extra special to come back whilst the COVID was still going on, but to work on something that you love and know so well. It was a real pleasure. And I think that transfers itself into the film, and hopefully the public will feel that same delight and joy. It's seeing us back again, I hope.
Well, yeah, no, I certainly did. It does carry through in the sense that this Downton's a really sort of bright and warm and light Downton,
Yes, who wants to go and watch something that has you want to slash your wrists? Yeah. So, and I think that was a policy decision, I suppose, to try and bring. But also, it was very interesting, to bring in the Hollywood aspect, which is, historically accurate. What happened there? It was the time of silent movies, which became talkies, and at that same kind of timeline, they started to experiment with going out of the studio where you would normally film everything and going on location. So this was a new thing as well, and so Downton becomes the forefront of movie making, I suppose.
Exactly. You actually jumped right into where I was going to go next.
Oh, right. Sorry.
No. Are you kidding? This is great. Which is that, how's Mrs. Hughes feel about making a movie and being in it?
Well, at first, I think she's a bit dubious as to, really, we're having a bunch of film people. And I think maybe she's not quite as anti it as Mr. Carson, her husband. But still in all, I think she has a reserve about it that these theatrical types, who knows what they're like. But then I think because she gets infected by the enthusiasm of say, Anna and Daisy, who are super excited to their heroes from the film world, and they look at them in the magazines all the time, and they just can't believe they're having Myrna Dalgleish and Guy Dexter to stay at the house. They're overexcited. And I think that she gets infected a bit as well by that, and then realizes that, well, certainly Mr. Dexter is actually quite a charming fellow and a decent chap. And he's also English, because she imagines that they're all Americans, and and who knows what sort of things they get up to. So yeah, she does. She does come round to rather enjoying it.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic, fantastic. And on the other side of it, how did you feel about as a plot device, using the movie within a movie to advance the tale of Downton, to take Downton into the 30s, as I think Lady Mary says at some point, right?
Something like that, yes. Oh, I just thought it was quite a sort of genius idea of Julian's. I know some people say it's borrowed from various things, but it actually was originally done in a Hitchcock film called, I've just momentarily forgotten what it was called. Anyway, so that's where that device of transferring from silent movies to talkies first happened. Yeah. And then it was pinched by the people who made Singing in the Rain, which everybody assumes that that's what Julian copied. But no, he went back to the original invention, which was a Hitchcock invention. Anyway, but I thought it worked a treat. And who would have thought that Downton would feature in a movie? I mean, I'd love for the movie to have got made and then for us to all go and watch it in the cinema. See, wouldn't that be great?
I would love that. I
mean, see all those characters watching ourselves as yeah, that would be fun.
Exactly. I know you've said elsewhere that you would love to go back to Downton in the future.
Oh,
that's something
that still applies.
Of course, yes. I want that too. Yes.
Well, let's hope the public do, because I mean, obviously we did film number one and assumed that would be it. Mm-hmm. But obviously there was a demand, almost as it were, from the fans that we should do another one, and obviously it was quite successful, the first one, and let's hope it's down to the fans, really. If they want another one, they are going to have to go and see this one.
Absolutely.
You go early, go often, yes. Like we vote.
Absolutely. And yeah, just another question with regard to Mrs. Hughes going forward. Where would you like to see her go? She's married to Rick Carson, who is just a delight in this movie, as ever. Yes,
I know. Well, they rub along rather nicely together, and excuse me, I don't know where they could go as characters, because they're both set in their ways very much, and I don't think she's ever going to encourage Mr. Carson to relocate to south of France or something like that.
Well, I think he would die of the heat.
Yes, no, he couldn't heat the heat, no, especially wearing tweeds. No, it's not ideal. So I just like their interactions, and I think Julian's got their characters down so well. I don't know, it would be nice if, I can't think what sort of scenario to have, if maybe there was some sort of skeleton in a cupboard that emerged. I don't know what that could be, but something that maybe rocked their marriage slightly, and then it got resolved by things, but they found out so much more. I don't know, I'm not the writer, but I'm just cooking it up now as I'm thinking and talking. Yes, I like a skeleton in a cupboard. It's always good value, isn't it?
I do too. And if I recall correctly, Mrs. Hughes did have a suitor once upon a time who came back around.
That's right. And she was almost tempted to go.
Yeah. So there we go. And we know Mr. Carson had his lost love many years ago.
Yes, that's right.
There we go. You can pass our ideas along. But, And then just one other thing, which is that, again, this Downton is very bright and very light. And, we haven't really touched on the French Riviera part, which, talking about, weaving themes in, filming on location, this Downton goes to the south of France.
Yes, I know.
Which, is even as a movie watcher who spent most of the last years in my apartment, right?
I know, but it is nice to see something like that because it looks beautiful, doesn't it? It looks absolutely stunning.
That's exactly where I was going. And so that was really nice. There's no real question there. I was just saying that, passing it along.
I know, no, it's beautiful to watch that. I mean, slightly jealous, of course, that not everybody got to go, but hey ho, we had our compensations. We got to look at Dominic West and Hugh Dancy a lot, so that sort of made up for it. And of course, the beautiful Myrna Dalgleish, as played by Laura Haddock, who's rather magnificent.
Yes, and has a phenomenal accent. But and actually, the final thing I wanted to get to was that this Downton, which again is a really light film, is also in a certain way a really pointedly political film, right?
It's very poignant, very poignant.
And I was wondering if you could just expand on that,
I don't know if can I give any spoilers?
Well, I will certainly put a disclaimer on my review.
No. Yes, it's yes, there are certain things that emerge. It might say a new era, but in some ways it might be. It's certainly a different era. This one, and I think people would need to have hearts of stone not to be affected by certain events that take place.
Exactly. Exactly. And the way it's woven in, and sort of, this takes place in the very late 20s in a similar unstable, we might say, period.
Yes, about to come up. Yeah.
And I'm just curious. Again, this was made, during the pandemic, in the fractious period in which we live. And I'm curious how much of that, Mrs. Hughes is a really solid pillar and stable person, That's very much her role as well. And so how much of that do you, just to wrap it up, how much of that comes from you to her? And you see what I mean?
Yes, well, I mean, quite honestly, it's I suppose a bit of both. Well, it's certainly in Julian's writing of the character, but who was originally meant to be from Yorkshire, and I'm from Scotland, but they asked me to play her in my own Scottish accent. So, and I did tap into lots of elderly ladies that I knew as a child, who had the same sort of attributes as her. They could be fair, but quite harsh sometimes too, and quite past remarkable, as my mother would say. They don't suffer fools too gladly. So I think it's a combination of the way Julian wrote the character and from my personal experience of women like Mrs. Hughes, and putting that into play with the character.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And I hope to see Mrs. Hughes soon, and again and again and again.
Oh, me too.
Very, very, very hopeful that we'll see some, really body skeletons in the closet come out. Right.
Yeah, that would be fun.
And otherwise, I want to thank you so much.
No, thank you.
And for
talk to you.
And for everything,
Oh, that's very good. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Deeply, deeply.
Good.
Thank you so much. Take care.
All right. Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.